Hello, everyone, and welcome to the mad, maniacal world of offbeat motorsports. Sit back and enjoy this guided tour of some of racing's most incomprehensible contests of speed, stamina, survival, and sometimes silliness. I'm your host, Bill Stevens, and if you're ready, let's get started on this journey to the world's wildest races. Our first stop, Naples, Florida, for the Wet and Wild Swamp Buggy World Championship. Folks come to Naples, Florida for many different reasons. Perhaps a dip in the ocean, a view from above, or a sail on a warm breeze. But these people have a different idea. This is the annual Swamp Buggy World Championship. The oval course runs a mile. It's 6 feet at its deepest and gets as shallow as 18 inches. 65 competed this year, just 6 back in 1948. There are 7 different classes of buggy, from 1-cylinder engines to 8-cylinder 4-wheel drive monsters. They're the descendants of buggies used by rangers in the 40s to patrol the Everglades against smugglers and poachers. These homemade buggies are made from a combination of farm machinery, jeeps, boats, and a lot of spare parts. To keep the motors running underwater, everything electrical must be sealed. Well, those guys might look like Bartles and James, but it's Bob Worthington and Floyd Cripp psyching up for the Jeep competition. Bob does the talking.
We've got a tough class that we're running against. We got some good Jeeps that we're running against, and we just try to be the best. And we was out here yesterday trying to find the best places on the track to run at, and hopefully that little bit of knowledge will help us out.
Good luck, fellas. Bob and Floyd splash off in another round of the Jeep competition, and we'll catch up to them a little later. Meanwhile, we were wondering what it's like to drive one of these swamp mobiles.
Scary till you get out on the line and then you don't have anything to think about except going forward.
Back in the swamp, these guys are stuck in the Sippy Hole, so called because old-timer Sippy Morris sunk here every year. What are some strategies?
Just give it hell.
The 8-cylinder honchos get it going to about 80 miles an hour on the straightaway, heading for a share of the $27,000 in prize money. Well, here come Bob and Floyd. Oh well, so much for this year. But they'll be back next year for another shot at the loot and a dip in the Sippy Hole with the Swamp Buggy Queen. Let's dry off a little and head 1,500 miles north to Epping, New Hampshire for space-age motorsports that really turn up the heat as we visit with Aggie Hendricks, a lady that loves to ride the rockets. Don Westcott tells us about it.
They don't have gear shifts or transmissions. You won't find a V8 engine under the hood. Unlike other dragsters, there's no need to smoke up their tires. Although they'll race in broad daylight, they usually come out at night. They are rocket cars and trucks, and the daring men and women who drive them. It's all over so fast. In as little as 5 seconds, driver and machine cover a quarter mile, 1,320 feet. Imagine traveling the length of a football field in a second, and you'll have some idea of just how fast these daredevils pushed by 4,000 horsepower aircraft engines travel. Here at the New England Dragway in Epping, New Hampshire, jet cars, jet trucks, and their pilots light up the sky with rocket-powered might, shaking the earth and the thousands of fans who come to thrill at their explosive show. Now, you might think that the drivers of these fire-breathing monsters are grizzled old mountain men. Some of them are. But the pilot of this rocket car is cut from another cloth. She's Aggie Hendricks, an attractive, friendly, former plant store owner from Vancouver, British Columbia. How did she find herself behind the wheel of this amazing machine?
I think opportunity mostly. I used to own a little tropical plant store in Western Canada, and I sold my shop, and I was vacationing in the Canadian Rockies. Met some people that were already involved in the business. They invited me to my first drag race. I went, I saw the jet cars for one. I went, that's really terrific. At that time, I had no ambition, personal ambition to drive a car, but because I'm not a very good spectator and I wanted to get involved, I started crewing on one of the teams, and about a year and a half later, we entertained the possibility of myself driving one of these cars. This particular engine is made by General Electric, and it comes out of an F5 Freedom Fighter or a T-38 Talon, which are planes similar to the type that you see escorting the space shuttle back down to Earth.
Let's join Aggie on the track.
The closest way that I can define it for anyone is the first hill on a roller coaster is 1 to 1.5 Gs. That's 1 to 1.5 times the weight of your body pushing against your body. This is 3.5 Gs. If I leave with my helmet sideways, I can't move my head back straight, and I learned that early in the game. I hope everybody gets a chance to see jet racing live.
If you think flame-belching jet cars are a bit frightening, then you'll really appreciate our next stop as we confront honest-to-goodness monsters. This is a story about monsters. Giant beasts that roar and snarl and crush whatever is in their path. These are the monster trucks, and soon they may be looking for you. One of the fastest growing motorsports in America today has to be the Monster Truck Racing Series, sanctioned by the United States Hot Rod Association. These oversized two-story high jumpers are owned and campaigned by a new generation of traveling barnstormers who cover the entire country, competing in the drag racing and obstacle course events that pack stadiums every weekend. We had a chance to talk to some of the men behind the monsters at a recent Monster Truck Bash at the Worcester Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. Nick Rossi from New Jersey is the owner of the famous Jersey Outlaw. And when you start talking about the challenge of racing these motor-driven mammoths, as with any professional motorsport, you have to talk about sponsorship.
The money isn't in the racing part of it. It is in the sponsors and advertisement. Like I said, sponsors are the backbone of the organization, basically. And that's what works good with marketing them. People come and look. When people look at them, they buy things. So they sell tickets, they put people in the stands. If you have a sponsor, people look at it and gets their eye in the sponsor's name. To build a truck from scratch right now, you're looking at neighborhood $110,000 to $150,000. Technology has moved up it's so advanced in the last 3 to 4 years. It's something you just can't get into and put $20,000 into a truck that you drive down the road and say you're going to crush cars. You just won't be competitive. It is a fast-growing motorsport, and you have to have a little bit of money behind you to do it. This vehicle here cost us $94,000 to campaign it. That included our tractor trailer, all the fees and road taxes going up and down the highway, plus maintaining the vehicle itself.
Well, if you're going to spend that kind of money to race a monster truck, you'd better have a pretty good driver. Michael Wine is the driver of the Jersey Outlaw. He was ranked number 7 in the monster truck drivers standings last season. And when asked to talk about his ride, he sounds like a man who is covering some very familiar territory.
It's an all fiberglass body, 18.2 tubular roll cage and chassis. We run a blown alcohol injected 500 cubic inch motor. We're sponsored by Super Winch, TNA Trucking, and also Pennsauken Springs. It's a Triangle Spring Corporation in which my boss owns, Nick Rossi out of Pennsauken, New Jersey. The truck's mounted on 66 by 43 by 25 inch tires onto it. Roughly, tires cost about $10,000 a piece. It runs a C6 Ford automatic transmission with a custom aluminum transfer case, which has a quick change gear drive setup.
Dennis Anderson is the owner and driver of one of the best-known trucks on the circuit, Gravedigger. Its popularity has inspired a radio-controlled version of this perilous panel truck. In fact, toys figure heavily in the Gravedigger's cash flow.
If I just had to depend on the money the truck made, we wouldn't be here right now. We sell T-shirts and toys off of the trucks. That's where I get my income to survive off of.
On the surface, monster truck racing appears to be a fairly simple sport. But behind the scenes, in order to become and remain competitive in this larger-than-life industry, it takes a lot of commitment.
Just to maintain the truck, the over-the-road expenses, last year with the Gravedigger 2, I ended up making like $136,000 with the truck. By the time my mission was over, I put about $9,000 in my pocket, which supported my family, which was very poorly.
Well, it's an obsession. It's something you just really can't stop doing. We tried to sell them before. We sold one of the old monster trucks. I sat home for about a month and said, we got to build another monster truck. It's just an obsession, something you have to do. Some people gamble. We race trucks.
I've cleared the maximum cars I've ever cleared is 14 cars. That's 74 feet across, 10 feet in the air. It's quite a rush. It's a natural high without any type of alcohol or drugs whatsoever. If you didn't love the sport, you wouldn't be in it. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of hard work. But just by going out the other night, I had a 6-year-old come up to me that knew more about me and the other trucks, anything else there was. He knew every race I've ever been and everything like that. The enjoyment of that right there is worth everything in the world.
So the next time someone tells you they don't believe in monsters, you can tell them that monsters really do exist. They may look terrifying, and their ear-splitting howl may make you shiver. But the monster trucks will never hurt you. They're only things that go bump in the night.
Well, monsters will be monsters, although those monsters rarely murder anybody. But not too long ago in Europe, there was an army of killers on the loose, and they called them killer bees. They traveled in quick-moving swarms. Their buzzing, raspy drone warned of their approach. They had wings, a very nasty disposition, and they flew. They were the killer bees. The World Rally Championship is a series of fiercely fought races through the sparsely populated areas of Europe, Scandinavia, and even Africa, over asphalt, mud, and sometimes snow. The cars race against the clock rather than wheel to wheel, and the car which completes each section of the course or stage in the least amount of time overall is the winner. It's a sport that has produced race drivers with uncanny reflexes and skill levels of car control that have no equal. In 1983, the FISA, the French sanctioning body that regulates the World Rally Championship, created a category of rally car that changed the face of this style of racing with startling immediacy. Group B was designed to encourage more auto manufacturers to enter the World Rally Championship by requiring the cars to only be based on standard production platforms. But there was virtually little else in the way of restrictions. The result, a new breed of race car that achieved levels of performance that few automobiles of any stripe could even remotely challenge. Your typical Group B race car produced close to 400 horsepower. Some were turbocharged, others were supercharged, some were both. They weighed less than a ton and clawed at the earth through permanent four-wheel drive. With gearing set up more for acceleration than sustained top speed, Group Bs could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. And even on loose, unstable roads covered with mud or snow, could screech past at over 100 miles per hour. With such short wheelbases and with so much horsepower and torque being generated by their menacing power plants, it was a treacherous task to drive any Group B car to its limit. Between 1983 and 1986, the major players in Group B were Peugeot, with its brutally powerful 205 Turbo 16, a two-time winner of the World Manufacturers Championship. Audi, with its Quattro Sport, enjoyed a number of impressive rally victories. It maintained a front-engine setup, in contrast to most Group B cars, which were mid-engine. Renault campaigned its ferociously quick R5 Turbo, and Lancia from Italy built the 037 and S4 Group Bs. There were blindingly fast Austin Metro 6R4s, and even Porsche 911s. Group Bs were not user-friendly. The better Group B drivers, such as Germany's Walter Rohr and Finland's Ari Vatanen, developed car control techniques which actually demanded depressing the throttle pedal, brake pedal, and clutch pedal simultaneously. World rally events, which are held both in daylight and during the overnight, can't help but make you wonder how these cars and drivers are able to travel at the speeds they do and where they do it. World rally spectators in Europe, especially in Portugal, exhibit inexplicable bravado by standing only a few feet from the rally course. The FISA has long been concerned by this unsettling lack of spectator discretion, and in 1986, several fatal accidents during Group B events involving drivers and spectators endowed that class of competition with a new, indelicate nickname, Killer Bees. In 1986, the final year of Group B rallying was held. The Killer Bees were outlawed. In the end, the factors that led to their banishment were the very same ones that had fueled their popularity. Uncompromising race cars with shrieking turbos blasting an ear-splitting path through every kind of backdrop, body pressing their drivers back into their seats, pitching and leaping over pavement and gravel with no attempt whatsoever to do it politely. The Killer Bees are gone, but as anyone who witnessed their savage displays of deadly force will tell you, they did not go quiet. Now let's travel back to the icy hills of the northern United States for an oddball racing series that's really cool, ice racing. Auto racing has traditionally been a sport which is conducted in mild, friendly climates. The professional racing seasons of the world's major sanctioning bodies stretch across the spring, summer, and early autumn months. Then everyone basically goes home for the winter. Except for these racers. Their season doesn't begin until the middle of winter. And it had better be a nice and cold winter on top of that, since they race on top of the ice. Ice racing is a sport that dates back several decades, and due to the nature of America's climatology, most ice racing is held in the northern states of the country, with much of it centered in northern and western New England. This event was a tri-club affair, involving 3 clubs from Massachusetts and New Hampshire on a small lake in Ashburnham, Massachusetts, about 45 miles west of Boston. The course for the event was one common to ice racing. Nothing too complicated, just a short oval, which was cleared of several inches of snow before the racing by club members who donated the use of their pickup trucks and plow blades. The cars that compete fall into 3 classes. 4-cylinder front or rear-wheel drive, stocks, and modifieds. All cars must have the usual safety devices, such as seat belts, and sound overall construction. And they run tire chains on all 4 wheels to give them adequate bite. Beyond that, especially in the modified class, it's pretty much run what you brung. There's no prize money, just trophies and a seasonal points championship. And Pete Giamalvo, the vice president of the Jaffrey Ice Racing Club, says the season doesn't last very long.
Our season's so short. You know, we can only race 2-3 times a year. Some years we race 6-8 times, but the way the weather's been lately, we get 3-4 weekends in out of a whole year. These guys spend all the money in their cars to race 3 weekends. We're lucky, so everybody's always ready.
When ice racing was born over 25 years ago, the cars were little more than beat-up jalopies, and the racers were typically described as local renegades trying to cut through the boredom of a long New England winter. But ice racing today boasts some well-built and cleanly detailed cars, like Alan Dara's 289 Ford V8-powered 5-window coupe.
Believe it or not, this is a 1930 Model A body. It's a Ford running gear, and it's a 289 Ford, 66 inch. And actually, it's done very well for me. I've won an awful lot of races.
And ice racing has truly become a family-oriented sport. In fact, even women, like Kim Hazard, now compete with the menfolk. And she loves it.
Power, speed. I love speed. I love to go fast. The faster, the better. I have no fear.
Ice racing driving techniques are a combination of proven fundamentals and personal preferences. Some cars have 2 brake pedals to control the brakes on each side of the car separately. And most drivers agree that the less you can see during a race, the better.
Well, you just keep your toe right into it. As long as there's snow blowing off your windshield, you know the guy in front of you is all right on the line. And if it stops, you're in trouble.
And as you might imagine, here's a motorsport that doesn't require you to dig real deep when the snow is.
It's probably the cheapest form of auto racing. Asphalt racing of any kind is getting pretty expensive today. Ice racing is probably the least expensive of all racing.
And one of the safest. Before anyone takes to the ice racing clubs require no less than a 12-inch thick ice surface on the day of the event. One obvious reason is that the ice has to be able to support the weight of all these cars. But there's another reason too.
If we have 11.5, we don't go. We got to have 12 because at the end of the day, in the turns, they'll be down to 5-6 inches in some of the grooves, and so we got to start with the full 12.
Another fringe benefit of ice racing is the locale, since most events are held in some of the most scenic areas of the country, with snowy landscapes framed by picturesque mountains and meadows. Well, the next race is about to start, and we've been invited to jump in and belt up. Ice racing can definitely chase away those midwinter yuckies that racing junkies suffer from the end of one motor racing season until the beginning of the next. This is one sport that is both ice cold and red hot. Ice racers need plenty of icy cold air to pursue their racing exploits. But another batch of motorheads have to have lots of good old-fashioned sunshine to power up. Let's go to Phoenix, Arizona, and get the story on solar racing. Solar-powered automobile racing is no longer a startling discovery for most people. Over the past several years, the reality of cars which get their power from sunlight has inched closer and closer to the commonplace. Up until now, just about all solar car races have been run on open highways, using a city-to-city format, and have usually taken several days to complete. That concept of solar racing has now been eclipsed by an event which took place recently in Phoenix, Arizona, as part of the Formula One United States Grand Prix weekend. A solar car race on an actual closed street circuit, where for the first time, these sun-powered speedsters would be competing wheel-to-wheel around corners and down straightaways. 7 universities entered cars in what was called the Governor's Cup Solar Challenge, as organized by the Arizona Energy Office, California Polytechnical Institute, or Cal Poly of Pomona, Cal Poly of San Luis Obispo, California State of Los Angeles, Stanford University, Arizona State, and entries all the way from Western Michigan and Stark Technical College of Ohio made up the starting grid. As the teams prepared for the 1-hour sprint race, we spoke to Mark Ginsburg of the Arizona Energy Office, who is one of the key organizers of the event and is a true believer in the future of solar-powered cars.
We really believe that pioneering solar energy in these cars is the wave of the future, very much like the Grand Prix cars test the technologies that go into other piston engine cars. We're going to test the technology here, expand it, and make solar and electric cars more likely to come more quickly.
Norma Gurovich, who works with Mark, thinks solar racing is a powerful medium for selling solar energy to the masses.
A water heater doesn't do much for a lot of people, but solar on a car that looks like a spaceship or an insect really makes kids point, makes adults stand up and say, wow, this really could be the future.
Although the 7 cars entered in the Governor's Cup Solar Challenge displayed differing designs and setups, they all basically shared standard solar electric energy systems. Solar panels like these catch the sunlight, and the solar voltaic cells in the panels convert that light into electric energy that is stored in standard lead-acid batteries. The batteries power the electric motors that the race cars are driven by. These cars were built by the students with funds that were either contributed by sponsors, collected through fundraisers, or supplied by various grants. And since these 500-pound Hummers can cost $100,000 or more to build, there's a deep commitment shared by everyone involved to make the most of that investment. Suzanne Mienko is the driver of the Arizona State entry, and although it may look a little cramped in there, she thinks her workspace is just right.
It's pretty comfortable. I think we're pretty lucky with respect to the other cars because there's so much room inside our cars. You stretch out this big sling seat, you can put your feet up and not driving and stuff like that, and it's really cool. It's well ventilated too.
Ray Landis is the Dean of Engineering and Technology at Cal State Los Angeles, one of the stronger teams entered. Although there are many skeptics towards solar-powered cars, Dean Landis is quick to remind them.
There were people that thought that automobiles would never replace horses, and certainly they were wrong. So I think there are many people that feel that solar-powered cars at least give us some sort of glimpse into the future.
The cars make their way to the starting grid, silently moving into formation like a row of great aluminum insects. Soon, they break into a gallop, reaching speeds on the straightaways of close to 75 miles per hour. The Cal State LA car has jumped out into the lead. The Western Michigan entry is running well too, as is the Cal Poly San Luis Obispo car. Few of these solar race drivers have ever competed on this type of challenging street course. Yet, the race is a clean one, with no incidents, as the Cal State LA car comes in first, and its victorious driver quickly attributes his success to factors other than his driving, not unlike winning drivers in other motorsports.
The car performed really well, and I have no problem, and we have a good full charge of battery, and that's probably one of the reasons to pull away from everybody.
This race has taken the concept of solar racing a small step further, while it has helped to speed up the evolution of sun-powered vehicles. The technology used in building and racing these cars is almost certain to find its way into the construction of solar-powered automobiles we'll all be driving a handful of years down the road.
Just the spirit of the people when they see these cars touches something deep inside that says intuitively that solar cars are really the wave of the future.
And for these young solar pioneers, the future is now. Some racers use sunlight to compete. Some have to battle it. Such is the case in the mountains of Colorado, thousands of feet above sea level. Pikes Peak, Colorado. Since 1916, the scene of one of motorsport's oldest organized events, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. French filmmaker Jean-Louis Mouret produced this exciting film called Climb Dance, which takes you on a phenomenal thrill ride up the 12.42-mile course that snakes its way some 4,700 feet up and around famed Pikes Peak. You're riding with perennial Pikes Peak champion Robbie Unser of the famous Unser racing family in the fiercely powerful Peugeot 405 Turbo 16. This car has set the overall record in this event more than once. Its raw power, tenacious handling, and the masterful skill of drivers like Unser and international rally star Ari Vatanen have launched it over the treacherous, challenging course in under 11 minutes. Now, just grab hold as we watch this virtuoso performance of car and driver working in total harmony in excerpts from this award-winning film, Climb Dance. In this race, there are no guardrails, safety barriers, or second chances. The road edge is the ultimate boundary between victory and disaster. As the car moves higher on the mountain, the precipitous drop-offs that line the loose dirt and gravel surface would have little left to their argument if they attempted to engage in this vehicular wrestling match for 11 straight minutes, almost as long as a full period in professional basketball. The Pikes Peak Hill Climb. A ride in the mountains will never be the same. From the exhilarating to the hilarious, as we now ramble out to Saugus, California, for an education in something called auto train racing. What we're about to show you may be somewhat confusing, so please pay close attention. This is an auto. This is a train. This is racing. But this is auto train racing. It's a sport that combines several low-budget racing styles into one: stock car, figure eight, and demolition derby. Once a month at Saugus Speedway, just outside Los Angeles, over 5,000 people stuff the grandstands to see 12 auto trains try to avoid stuffing each other. By the way, that horn you hear is a genuine train air horn, complete with Bart Simpson riding on top, and it was installed earlier that very same day. Your basic auto train racer consists of 3 cars connected by reinforced tow bars. Only the lead car, usually a big heavy American sedan, has an engine. The second car is just a body and a chassis on wheels. The third car is complete except for a drivetrain. The driver sits up in the front car, and there's a caboose driver who has steering and brakes in the rear car. The second car has no driver except for an occasional stowaway. And everyone knows any real wagon train needs real horsepower. This may be a new approach to chassis setup. As you can see, to ensure that the racing displays the ultimate in spectator appeal, the races are run on a figure 8 course. There are several characteristics that become graphically apparent about auto train racing after only watching it for a moment. As in life itself, timing is everything. The lead driver has to wallow his rig through the intersection, keeping in mind that he's responsible for 2 more cars hugging him from behind. Gene Hines and Bob Newbold have only been auto train racing for a month. What's it like driving the lead car?
My first time out, I was scared to death when we were getting ready to pull on the track. And once we get out on the track and all the other trains pulled out, I settled down a little bit, but still, you're nervous all the time. You've got a split second to make a judgment whether to go through the intersection or to stop. Someone's bearing down on you, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You worry about your buddy in the back car, whether he's going to make it through or not, whether you're going to hit somebody in their back car. It's a pretty scary situation, to tell you the truth.
Despite what looks like a disaster waiting to happen, Saugus Speedway says there have never been any serious injuries to any auto train driver. The same cannot be said, however, for the trains themselves, since there have been a few mishaps.
Last month in our first race, we were going around on the 4th lap, I believe it was the 4th lap, and we made a hard turn to the right, and the next thing you know, I flipped the car over 1.5 times, turned over on its side, and after everything was stopped, I got out of the car. When the paramedics came over, they asked me if I felt any numbness or dizziness and that, and I said, no, all I want to do is get back in that car and go. Looked at the chains, they looked okay, so they flipped the car back over, and we took off and finished the race.
If auto train racing looks like it may be your ticket into racing, plan on spending only about $3,500 for an entire season. A good chunk of that money is usually spent on new bumpers. Some teams actually claim they campaign the same vehicles for one entire season. Tires, however, are usually replaced after each race. Although it's more for fun than fame, auto train racing may be the ideal motorsport. Fast, noisy, exciting, yet inexpensive, safe, and immensely popular. So quickly, let's review. Auto train. Auto train racing. Clear the tracks. By now, maybe you've been bitten by the racing bug yourself and would like to try your hand at some of this lunatic behavior. Well, if you head for Southern California, the folks we feature in this next story might be able to help you. Dirt track sprint car racing is a mad, maniacal motorsport, which can be best described as a high-speed balancing act, where drivers must combine throttle and steering control on a slippery dirt surface with plenty of concentration and anticipation to succeed and survive. Have you ever wondered what it's like to finesse a race car around an oval track with little traction and lots of competition? Well, now you can give it a shot. Slick track is a zany, unpredictable amusement sport that approximates, at much safer speeds, the kind of loosey-goosey spin and grin racing style that any dirt track racer would readily appreciate. For $2.50 a ride, you're more than welcome to join the ranks of these steely-eyed disciples of speed and venture out into this strange racing adventure where everyone is trying to get a grip. Slick Track utilizes standard commercial go-kart frames and power plants, covered by a non-breakable polyplastic body. There's a throttle and brake pedal, and the cars actually have 3 different size tires on them, or what's called in real racing, tire stagger, which sets the car's handling into a left turn only arrangement. Before getting the green flag, as in big time racing, there are instructions from the officials.
You get a grip on how these work. You like to slide, be careful.
Then the race is on. Intentional collisions, undue recklessness, or any number of rules infractions will result in a warning whistle blast from Slick Track race stewards. And if you lose it, someone is close by to help turn you loose. Veteran Slick Track devotees with a deep understanding of the sport can quickly recognize the various driving styles you'll see here. There's the classic California laid-back style, the aggressive edge of your seat style, the Rapunzel let your hair down style, and the hey babe, everything's cool style. The course is constructed from polished concrete and then covered with talcum powder, which gives Slick Track a, well, slick track. Racing mishaps can run anywhere from your first lap multi-car pileup to a single-car barrier bash, or a 4-car fiasco, or your basic get-out-of-my-way exhaust breath body check. Slick Track was invented by this man, Chris Agajanian, the son of the late J.C. Agajanian, who owned the legendary Ascot Park, a longtime venue for dirt track racing in Gardena, California, until its recent closing. In fact, the first Slick Track racecourse opened in Anaheim, California, with some remarkable timing.
It's funny, you know, we knew that the lease was going away at Ascot, and we worked on trying to put this Slick Track in, and it would just so happen that opened the following day after Ascot closed, so the name Ascot never died.
And what do some of these power-hungry slick tracksters have to say about their favorite pastime?
It's fast and it's slick, and you think you're a really good driver and you spent 25 years on the road and all that sort of stuff, but forget all of that, because when you come out here, there's a whole new set of rules.
There's no control. You just go and hope that you don't fall off and hope that you don't run into someone and break your face.
I'm an Air Force pilot, and this is a lot more fun, or equally as fun as flying the jets in the Air Force.
What about special talents you need to do well at slick track?
It takes no brains. You just have to be over 4'6" and just go out there and don't be too stupid. They get mad. They blow their whistle.
Obviously, slick track is a safe way to go racing. In fact, the officials seem to be the most at risk, trying to keep control of a situation where there isn't a lot of that to begin with. But everywhere you look at slick track, you see people smiling and laughing. Probably one of the few places in California where smiling and driving can be seen simultaneously.
People have come up to me and said that they pull off the side of the freeway and they don't want to go on the freeway anymore because they're all stressed out with the day, and they get out here and bang it up. So they actually come in here for like a happy hour and race around and relieve their tensions. They go out here with a smile, and the price of a smile now, the tickets are only $2.50 and you get to smile for 5 minutes. So I guess it's a good deal.
And after our visit to slick track, we'd have to agree. So why not come by sometime and take a spin? Time to climb out of the driver's seat and turn the duties back to the professionals, as we now go indoors to a racing series that specializes in lots of commotion: stadium truck racing. Desert off-road racing, a sport that has tested the toughness of drivers and their race machines for several decades. It's also tested the toughness of off-road spectators. After all, if you want to see desert off-road racing, you have to go to the desert. And because of the way these events are staged, after you see a competitor rush past, it could be quite a while before the next one comes by. And since many desert races last a few days, it's one of the only motorsports that challenges the endurance of the spectators as much as the drivers. However, if you can't go to the desert can come to you. This is stadium off-road racing, the most rough and tumble, hairy-chested contact sport that's ever been played from behind a steering wheel. The late race car designer, driver, and entrepreneur Mickey Thompson from California came up with the idea about 20 years ago. But it wasn't until fairly recently that this kind of legalized vehicular assault became big-time sport. Born in California, stadium off-road events are held all over the country now, and just about any stadium that normally hosts football or baseball can be converted to a madcap maze where automotive anarchy abounds. We recently visited Anaheim Stadium in Southern California for one of the many stadium off-road events that are held there. Outside the stadium, before the racing begins, there's a good-sized midway with commercial displays and a paddock where everyone gets to see the race machines getting prepped. Off-road events attract several styles of race vehicles, including Baja buggies, super lights, ultra stocks, like this one about to get its clothes put on, and the ever-popular pickup trucks, plus those athletic little four-wheeled ATVs. Danny Thompson, son of Mickey, remembers the birth of stadium off-road racing.
My dad, Mickey Thompson, in 1979 came up with the original concept, and he went into the LA Coliseum and talked to the commissioner of sports there and told him he wanted to bring 25 million pounds of dirt into the floor of the LA Coliseum where they had the Olympics, and the guy kind of laughed at him and said, "Yeah, sure thing, mister." But anyway, my dad convinced him to do it, and not only did it, he put 50,000 people in there that first year, and that was kind of the inception of it.
Attendance figures for stadium off-road events continue to climb. Why are more and more people getting into this kind of racing? Frank Arciero Jr. from Laguna Hills, California, one of the top guns in the sport, thinks he knows what's filling those seats.
I think the fans love the banging, the crashing, and the rollovers. You know, there's a lot of that. You know, you get the trucks, you get these big trucks in a confined area down on the stadium floor, and boy, anything's going to happen. And you hear a big roar in the stand, and you know these people are going wild.
Just before the night's racing activities begin, the drivers roll their machines into the empty arena. Then the spectators file in and are invited to come down onto the track and get autographs from their favorite drivers. If there was ever a sport that kept the paying public in mind, this is it. After mixing and mingling with the fans, it's time to get down to the meat and potatoes. And the main event at any stadium race has to be the race trucks, driven by such notorious hard cases as Roger Mears, Walker Evans, Rod Millen, and Ivan Ironman Stewart. Stadium race trucks are tough little customers, and watching a battalion of them abuse each other in a 10-lap sprint race is a blast. They dart, feint, bob and weave, and sometimes even flip, which in this sport is usually just a minor inconvenience. We'll just get this little spud back on its rubber and pick up where we left off. The tubular steel chassis of these race trucks are stuffed with race-prepped engines and are cloaked in lightweight fiberglass body panels that just sort of peel off in the event of heavy contact. It's kind of like motor racing's version of professional football's tearaway jerseys. That's why most teams bring plenty of spares with them. The trucks may reach speeds of only 55 miles per hour, but that's a sustained 55, over the bumps, around the turns, and in the air, sometimes traveling 70 feet from liftoff to landing. Rod Millen, originally from New Zealand, now a Californian, is one of the top bananas in the SCCA's Pro Rally Series. How does that kind of racing compare to stadium shenanigans?
Well, most of the rallies I do last 4 days. Most of the events that we do here only last 4 minutes, so you know there is a big difference.
And it could be the most furious 4 minutes you've ever witnessed. Stadium off-road. Forget the desert. Just sit back, sip on a soft drink, and let this crazed collection of rowdy renegades put on a show that just won't quit. And I do mean, just won't quit. Now it's time to forget what Mom always told us and to go play in the mud. To upstate New York we go for the dirtiest time you've ever had. Mud racing. In most organized forms of motorsports, cars and drivers are squeaky clean, well-scrubbed, unblemished components that swiftly negotiate their chosen race courses and carefully etched racing lines. In road racing, from straightaway to corner to straightaway. It's exciting, thrilling, and oh so clean. In fact, some racing teams actually do their laundry at the racetrack. But for some people, this kind of racing is, well, it's too clean. Now, this is racing at its sloppy, slippery, muddy, cruddy best. Welcome to the weird, wild, and woolly world of mud racing, as it's presented by the North American Mud Racing Association. In this form of motorized combat, you're expected to be a stick in the mud. And unlike politics, a lot of good old-fashioned mud slinging is the way everyone competes. Mud racing is a sport that was probably invented one day when two farmers on tractors encountered one another while plowing a muddy cornfield. The kinds of mud racing creations that squish their way to victory include pickup trucks, Jeeps, home-built modifieds, and some that defy description. Some of these race machines are stuffed with high-horsepower, full race engines, some with nitrous oxide. In other words, they're mean. And the events are somewhat varied, too. There's drag racing, There's open bog racing, sort of like a time trial through hell. And obstacle course racing that almost always results in a daffy display of slides, skids, and metal-to-mud contact. This is a real no apologies, no pretensions kind of racing fraternity. It's chicken fried, down home, t-shirt and Levi's gamesmanship all the way. When you talk about ground effects in this sport, you're referring to how deep the mud is. And if it's not deep enough, just hook up the hose and the pump and we'll mix up a fresh batch for you. Tom Kranz on the left, who covers the Northeast region on the Mud Racing Tour, spoke to some of the racers at a meet held recently in upstate New York. Kurt Dudley from Albion, New York, has a simple solution if he wrecks his truck.
We'll just put them back together and try harder, you know. What can you do? It's fun.
And fun is definitely the operative word with the mud racing crowd. Brian London has his own formula for unwinding after a tough day of getting bogged down.
Well, after the race, we got our trucks, you know, basically ready as quick as we could, and then we went to West Valley and we went bar hopping pretty much to all the bars in town.
Unlike most forms of Major League Auto racing, there's not a whole lot of prize money for mud racing winners. And the results of a weekend's mud race probably won't make the next issue of Sports Illustrated. Anyone who gets involved in mud racing is there for one reason. They love every dirty minute of it. And like all better forms of auto racing, mud racing selects a mud queen at its larger events.
Almost forgot Ann. We can't forget Ann. How do you think Ann should be mud queen? Woo!
If you're waiting for the evening gown competition, you're in the wrong place. One of the really attractive features of mud racing is its low-budget appeal. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for fancy speed equipment. And getting anything chromed would really be a waste of time. Although it's not necessary, you might even get a sponsor, say a local car wash. Mud racing. Definitely not pretty, but it sure is fun. Both to do and to watch others do. And if you ever get tired of the consistent cleanliness of other styles of auto racing, now you know where to go to get down and dirty. Because where there's life, there's mud. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of the world's wildest races. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you'll keep your eye open for the other home videos in our series. Until then, this is Bill Stevens reminding you to please buckle up and drive safely. And remember to tune in every week for Wild About Wheels. Check your local listings for the cable system in your area for the time and channel for Wild About Wheels.